Welcome to this explainer. We're diving straight into what could honestly be one of the most game-changing quests of your professional career, demystifying the PMP exam and stepping fully into the project economy. Look, if you're tuning into this, you probably already know that the Project Management Professional Certification is the absolute gold standard in the industry. But actually getting it? Well, that takes a rock-solid strategy and knowing exactly what you're up against. So let's get right into it. Here is our flight plan for today. We'll start by welcoming you to the project economy. Then we'll look at unlocking your PMP certification prerequisites, breaking down the exam itself, and finally mapping out your training roadmap. Starting with part 1. Welcome to the project economy and its massive global impact. You know, the project economy literally spans the entire globe. It's the engine backing the most crucial, groundbreaking work happening all over the world right now. So by mastering these core principles, you aren't just memorizing a bunch of dry facts for a test. You're building a practical, lifelong toolkit for project management that is going to open doors for you no matter what continent your career takes you to. Moving right along to part 2, unlocking your PMP certification. Let's make sure you have the right keys to enter the arena. Okay, so there are basically 2 distinct paths to qualify here, and it mostly depends on your educational background. Path 1, if you've got a 4-year degree, you'll need 36 months of verifiable real-world experience leading projects. Path 2, if you have a high school diploma or an associate's degree, that experience requirement bumps up to 60 months. But here's the kicker. For both of these paths, you absolutely must have either 35 hours of formal project management education or an active CAPM certification. It's really all about pairing that hands-on leadership with a very solid educational foundation. All right, part 3, breaking down the exam. It's time to face the final boss. Now, you can actually take some comfort in knowing that this test isn't just a bunch of arbitrary academic theory dreamt up in a vacuum. The Exam Content Outline, or ECO as we call it, is built directly by global PMP certified professionals, your actual peers. They sat down and mapped out exactly what it takes to do this job in the real world across tons of different industries, which guarantees that what you're tested on is genuinely relevant to your day-to-day work environment. And this is fascinating. When we slice up the pie of where you actually need to focus your study time, exactly 50% is on process, your ways of working. But check this out, a whopping 42% is dedicated entirely to people and power skills. That represents a massive modern shift in the industry toward human dynamics and leadership. The last 8% covers the business environment. So if you're wondering where to invest your mental energy during prep, this breakdown is quite literally your blueprint. So, if we treat this exam like a video game you have to beat, your first major rule is the clock, 230 minutes. That is nearly 4 hours. So pacing yourself and honestly managing your caffeine intake is just as crucial as knowing the material inside and out. Inside those 230 minutes, you are going to face exactly 180 questions. Now, pay close attention to this test day strategy tip regarding breaks. You do get 2 optional 10-minute breathers, but, and this is a big but, only if you're taking the computer-based test. If you go old school and opt for a paper exam, you get 0 breaks, period. And those 180 questions, they aren't just your basic multiple choice anymore. You're going to see matching, multiple responses, and fill in the blanks. In fact, you'll be navigating a really dynamic, interactive digital interface. For example, you might have to check off multiple correct answers from a checklist or interact with a hotspot graphic where you physically click on a specific part of an image to drop your answer. It's specifically designed this way to test your actual true comprehension, not just your ability to memorize a textbook. Which brings us to part 4, your training roadmap and your path to success. Throughout your prep course, you'll master these 6 crucial steps in chronological order, perfectly mirroring the life cycle of a real-world project. Step 1 starts with the big picture, understanding the business environment. Then we jump into action with Step 2, start the project, and Step 3, plan the project. Once the gears are turning, it's all about those human dynamics in Step 4, lead the team, followed closely by Step 5, support the project team. And finally, we bring the whole thing home to a successful finish in Step 6 by officially closing the project or phase. It's a beautifully logical, step-by-step progression that builds up your competence layer by layer. And to make sure this doesn't just stay abstract theory, your training incorporates an immersive fictional case study, the Shoppist Lifestyle Center. You'll be tackling a hybrid project to develop retail and community spaces, navigating a super strict 36-month timeline and a very real $7 million budget constraint, all alongside our fictional project manager, Eng Fen. This case study is basically your sandbox. It bridges the gap between textbooks and reality, giving you a safe place to practice and really hone your new skills. We have covered a ton of ground today. You now understand the massive global stakes of the project economy. You know exactly what your prerequisites are. You know the grueling 230-minute rules of the exam, and you've got your comprehensive 6-step roadmap ready to go. Earning this certification is an incredibly tough challenge for sure, but it fundamentally redefines your professional worth. So my final question to you is simple. Are you ready to step into the project economy and get to work? Or are you going to stay on the sidelines? Think about that as you kick off your prep. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.